Hi, my name is Smayer Sandhir, and I'm a junior at the Miami Valley School, and I'm currently taking U.S. History. For my fall semester final, I decided to make a video about the very prevalent topic of political correctness. For those who might not keep up with the news or current events in the United States, you might not realize just how impactful political correctness is on real life. Things like journalism, comedy, and everyday language have drastically changed, even as recent as the last decade, due to political correctness. If you want to hear more about the history and effect of political correctness in the United States, keep on watching. So what exactly is political correctness? The exact definition of it is the avoidance, often considered as taken to extremes, of forms of expression or actions that are perceived to exclude, marginalize, or insult groups of people who are socially disadvantaged or discriminated against. So basically, it's the idea that one should censor their actions or words, often having to go out of their way to do this, so they don't offend someone who is maybe a minority or associated with a lower socioeconomic status. Although the idea of political correctness sounds really good and helpful for society, there's this quote by George H.W. Bush that kind of sums up what's going on today. He said, "And although the movement arises from the laudable desire to sweep away the debris of racism and sexism and hatred, it replaces old prejudice with new ones. It declares certain topics off limits, certain expressions off limits, even certain gestures off limits." Before we explore present-day political correctness and how it's affecting society today, let's actually explore its history. Would you believe that the word politically correct has been around for more than 2 centuries? It was first brought up in 1793 in a political lawsuit in the United States Supreme Court. It was kind of forgotten about then, and it wasn't really used again until the late 20th century. So the term politically correct wasn't really used again until the 1940s. Hitler and the Nazis actually used this term to describe those in Germany who agreed with them and their ideas were politically correct. Around the same time in the United States, the term politically correct was becoming more popular. It was actually used between socialists and communists in debates during the Marxist movement. Socialists used the term politically correct to describe the ideas of communists and said it would eventually lead to bad politics. Today in society, politically correct isn't necessarily referring to a certain group, but rather it's become an unwritten standard in society that you must be politically correct in what you say and do. Otherwise, you might be fired from your job, deleted off of social media, or overall just be cancelled. A study done by the Cato Institution, where they interviewed about 2,500 Americans from around the United States, found that 71% of Americans feel political correctness has silenced important discussions in society. The same study found that 73% of conservatives and 53% of liberals have felt the need to keep some political beliefs to themselves. Yet 59% of Americans believe you should be allowed to express unpopular opinions in public. Gallup, which is a management consulting company that's known for its public polls, recently had a poll that found that 54% of college students are afraid to say what they believe. So the majority of these Americans believe you should share political beliefs, whether those around them agree, but they still keep some of their political beliefs to themselves. This points directly to political correctness. It's causing a censorship of people's speech. But why? It's because people are just so afraid of offending someone and hurting their feelings. In society today, people's feelings tend to matter more than facts. Where somewhere in America that you think values political correctness over facts? For me, I immediately think of college campuses. The place where education and the next generation are developed is where some of the most forceful censorship of speech is happening in America today. In 2015, at a rally in Iowa, former President Barack Obama actually spoke out against the idea of political correctness on college campuses. He stated, "I've heard some college campuses where they don't want to have a guest speaker who, is too conservative, or they don't want to read a book if it has a language that is offensive to African Americans, or somehow sends a demeaning signal towards women. I don't agree with that you as students at colleges have to be coddled and protected from different points of view." College campuses have gotten so bad that often violence has broken out because someone is offended or two people are having a disagreement. One of the biggest events, and one of the first kind of events like this that I ever heard of, were the riots at UC Berkeley. I won't get too detailed, but basically it started with a right-wing speaker, Milo Yiannopoulos, who was scheduled to speak at UC Berkeley. Hundreds of teachers signed a petition to get the event canceled, and there were thousands of protesters across campus. It started out peacefully, but then groups like Antifa showed up, and it quickly got violent. The event was obviously canceled because it was really dangerous and people were being assaulted, windows were being broken, stores were broken into, and it was just like a big mess. There was more than $100,000 in damages. The turnout of this event and how everything happened kind of brings up the idea that being politically incorrect is automatically considered offensive and wrong, and people start to justify for themselves that they have the right to tell people what they can and cannot say just because it's an opposing view. Even though you haven't actually heard it, you don't actually know. But it kind of gives people the justification that they think they have, which they probably don't actually have, that they get to silence others and they get to silence what they think and their opinion, which goes basically against the First Amendment and freedom of speech. And it's really dangerous because people are also justifying for themselves that they're allowed to be violent about it, like the riots, and just because they think it's an offensive view or an opposing opinion, when in reality, the freedom of speech may give you, like, you can say what you want, of course, no matter what side of the spectrum you're on, but you don't have the right to be violent about it while you're trying to express your own opinions. Political correctness has gone so far today to silence people that there's just these extremes that you're not allowed to say something that wouldn't be seen as normal, like, even a decade ago. And there's actually a lot of recent day events that are examples of this. Many of you may have actually heard of this example already, but it's actually a really recent thing where the animal rights organization PETA put out a statement and a list of sayings that they would rather you say instead of, like, normal things that we've been saying for a long time, so you don't trivialize animal cruelty. And this was what their statement was. Just as it became unacceptable to use racist, homophobic, or ableist language, phrases that normalize cruelty to animals will vanish as more people begin to appreciate animals for who they are and start bringing home the bagels instead of the bacon. Some of the other phrases that they had were, instead of saying kill two birds with one stone, say feed two birds with one scone. Instead of be the guinea pig, say be the test tube. Beat a dead horse should be feed a fed horse. As we said before, bring home the bacon should be bring home the bagels. And there's a few more, but you get the idea. This is kind of an example of, like, really extreme political correctness where a lot of these common sayings that no one thinks are about animal cruelty at all, they're just, like, normal phrases that people have been saying for a long time, is somehow now normalizing animal cruelty and promoting it, and is on the level of racism and homophobia and things like that. Two examples from 2017 about being politically correct are that a student at Louisiana State University said it was cultural appropriation to have thick eyebrows when you don't necessarily have them, and referred to eyebrow culture when she was making the statement. Another thing was that at Clemson University they had a diversity course, and they said that it was offensive to expect people to be on time because time is considered fluid in some cultures and it's offensive. Some of us may think these examples are funny or not that important, or at least I kind of think they do, but they're also not really helping with real issues. Put in things like the examples at Louisiana State University and Clemson and what the PETA organization did. Putting their issues on the same pedestal as racism and sexism, just like PETA said they did, is dangerous because it puts these really small and not really offensive things on the same level as really bad and offensive things. It takes away the meaning behind things like racism and sexism, and it makes situations that involve those actual things seem not as bad or offensive. If America continues its path of extreme political correctness, we will see a decline in freedom, diversity, and inclusion, all of things of which this country values greatly. The result will not be an outbreak of absolute harmony. Instead, it will be an atmosphere in which people will have to walk on eggshells to make sure no word or deed can be grounds for complaint. You just watched the history and effects of political correctness in America. Thanks for watching!